Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Muhammadun salli ala Rasul al-Kareem. And request the brothers who have completed their salah, please come closer. We will start with the recitation of the Quran by Shaykh Mahmood. And inshallah, if you can also offer one nasheed or not, along with the recitation, it will be an honor.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث صدق الله العظيم. These are the ash'ar of Hazrat Maulana Shaykh Muhammad Akhtar Sahib Rahmatullahi alayhi. आपका मर्तबा इस जहां में आपका मर्तबा इस जहां में जैसे खुर्शीद हो आसमां में आपका मर्तबा इस जहां में जैसे खुर्शीद हो आसमां में दोस्तों ये है शहरे मदीना जिससे इस्लाम फैला जहां में गर न सल्ली अला हो जुबा पर क्या असर होगा आहू फुगा में गर न सल्ली अला हो जुबा ورفعنا کا انعام یہ ہے، ورفعنا کا انعام یہ ہے، آپ کا ذکر ہے دو جہاں میں، ورفعنا کا انعام یہ ہے، آپ کا ذکر ہے دو جہاں میں۔ شرط توحید کامل یہی ہے، عشق ہو آپ کا قلب و جاں میں۔ شرط توحید کامل یہی ہے، عشق ہو آپ کا قلب و جاں میں۔ کوئی سمجھے گا کیا غیر ممکن، آپ کا رتبہ دونوں جہاں میں۔ کوئی سمجھے گا کیا غیر ممکن، آپ کا رتبہ دونوں جہاں میں۔ سبز گنبد پہ جس کی نظر ہو، وہ بلا جائے کس گلستاں میں۔ سبز گنبد پہ جس کی نظر ہو، وہ بلا جائے کس گلستاں میں۔ نام کیسا ہے پیارا محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم، نام کیسا ہے پیارا محمد، جن کے صدقے میں ایمان ہے جاں میں۔ نام کیسا ہے پیارا محمد، جن کے صدقے میں ایمان ہے جاں میں۔ یہ ہے فیضان نور نبوت، جو ہے اسلام سارے جہاں میں۔ کیا کہوں رفعت شان گنبد، کیا کہوں رفعت شان گنبد، کچھ نہیں دم ہے اختر زباں میں۔ کیا کہوں رفعت شان گنبد، کچھ نہیں دم ہے اختر زباں میں۔ آپ کا مرتبہ اس جہاں میں جیسے خورشید ہو آسمان میں۔
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Maulana. And I would like to call Maulana Kamal Sahab just for a few words before the Shaykh on the instructions of the Shaykh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده، والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. رب زدني علما. قال تعالى: والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العظيم. That was a bit of a shock. So I know the program is for parents. Because I work in a school, I teach in a school, I just want to speak to, if you forgive me, to the children, just for a few seconds. So, question is, how many of you, put your hands up, want to become a footballer? Okay, that's 3. How many of you want to become a wrestler, UFC fighter, MMA fighter? Put your hands up. There's only 1. Most of the kids that I teach in our secondary school, when they first came in the first year of secondary, they want to become Hafiz, they want to become doctor or whatever. And by year 10, year 9, year 10, which is your year 4, 5th year, S5, they all want to become MMA fighters, footballers. So I'm going to tell you a story, because this is my exclusive bedtime story for you all, about a wrestler. Well before the days of Islam Makhachev and Khabib and WWF, WWE, UFC, his name was Junaid. Has anyone heard of him? The wrestler? World famous wrestler. At that time, Baghdad was the center of the world. Madinatul Salam, Biladul Urus, Urusul Bilad, the city of peace, the bride of cities. This was the time when he was the world champion wrestler, paid for by the king. You didn't have to pay-per-view, no buying tickets or anything. The king would give him the championship prize. And he was so famous, everybody loved him. All the young people, the elders, the women, everybody loved him. And then how it would work, the king would showcase him in front of the crowd. The whole city would gather. People from all over the world would gather. And then the challengers would come, and then he'd accept, obviously with the permission of the king, because he had to sign off the fight. And then they'd fight. And there's no guesses, he's going to win. He's going to win. No one would ever, there's no doubt he would win. Once what happened, there was an old, frail person who came forward, a weak old man, and challenged Junaid. You know, there's gasps all over. Everybody's, what was this? Does this one person want to die? And then even the king thought, you accepting this means you're signing your contract to death. Junaid accepted, the old man accepted. Junaid's thinking, what shall I do? Shall I take it easy or whatever? As soon as they got together, you know, when they're feeling each other out, he came really close to him, whispered into his ear. And you could tell it affected Junaid. So the fight started. Junaid went for a takedown, double leg, took him onto the ground. And then all of a sudden, it reversed. The old man came on top, mounted him, went for a submission, finished. Junaid was finished. Everybody screaming. It was like the shock of, it was the, everybody was shocked. And then we found out the truth. This old man came and whispered. He said, Junaid, I am a descendant of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't have food to put on my table. This is the only way. I can't take sadaqah. I can't go and beg. If this is the only way I can feed my children, will you, for the sake of the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sacrifice your faith? He had to think in a split second. So he showed the king that he was going for a double leg, but actually he decided he will sacrifice everything he has for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That night, Junaid goes to sleep, and he sees the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his dream. He said, "Oh Junaid, because you make that sacrifice to feed my children, then today you have been named and registered amongst those who are close to Allah, the friend of Allah." And that's what happened. Then Junaid, people forgot about his wrestling days. He was known as Junaid al-Baghdadi, the friend of Allah. So coming back to this surah of the Quran, I was just thinking about today, I came to the first session, and Ustad was talking about the phases of our lives. I remember my teacher, he said, the first 15 years of your life will go really slow. And the next 15 years of your life will go so fast you wouldn't know what hit you. And it happened. To me, it happened. I'm sure those of you who are over 30, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those below 15 probably don't know. So once, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, wal asr, Allah swore by time. Innal insana lafi khusr. The human being is most certainly in loss. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Except for those who believe and perform virtuous deeds. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And enjoin the truth to one another, and enjoin patience to one another. So with Junaid, now that you know him, was once walking in a bazaar. He was in the marketplace, and he saw someone selling ice. And he watched it slowly, the ice block was melting, and no one was doing anything about it. Everybody's going about their daily lives. He goes, that's when it struck. That's the time. I've read Wallah so many times that we are at loss and time is running out. Our lives are finishing. This is the time when I truly understood this verse. This is when I understood what Wal Asr means, how precious time is for us. Our time is running out. The only way we will become successful is from إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And I want to leave you with a very short poem I read once. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That is why it's called the present. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us all to really appreciate this special gift of us, which is time. Allah allow us to make use of our time and make use of our lives, inshallah, so that, inshallah, in the day of judgment, we will be resurrected with the beloved Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah hamdan kathiran mubarakan tayyiban fihi mubarakan alayhi kama yuhibbu rabbuna wa yarda. Wa sallallahu ala nabiy al-mustafa al-mujtaba salatan tatibu bihal qulub وتكشف بها الغموم والكروب وتغفر بها الذنوب صلاة وسلاما دائمين متلازمين إلى يوم جمع الثقلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى وما خلق الذكر والأنثى إن سعيكم لشتى صدق الله المولانا العظيم. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال حبيب الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل مولود يولد على الفطرة فأبواه ينصرانه أو يهودانه أو يمجسانه أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رواه البخاري. Respected scholars, ulama, huffaz, memorizers of the Holy Quran, distinguished guests, brothers and sisters listening, whether on site or at a distance through alternative means and devices, whether near or far, I greet you all with the blessed greetings of Islam. Today's event and the focus of today has been in the afternoon for the younger ones was the transition from childhood to adulthood in Islam. And as Hazrat Maulana has already announced, this session is focusing on family life in Islam. Before we get to the core issues and concepts within Islam that focus on the family, one of the approaches of fiqh in Islam, Islamic legal thinking, deep legal thinking, is to understand the context, the society, the time that we are in. If you look around you and understand, for the Buzurgs who are sat here, our elders, who have perhaps been here more than 30, 40 years in this country of Scotland, they will tell you how Scotland has changed. Those who have been here and perhaps in their 30s equally will tell you how over the last 10 years Scotland has changed. One of the issues that is impacting the globe, not just Scotland, is traditional values are being lost. For example, Scotland, perhaps 30, 40 years ago, you would have commonly heard, than you do at the moment, church bells on a Sunday. Do you hear church bells in Dundee on a Sunday? More or less than before? Less. Something is happening there. Religion is being lost. Equally, if I was to ask you 30, 40 years ago, was it common that people lived together, cohabited together without a marriage certificate? Did they marry, whether they married in a synagogue or they married in a church, wherever they married, they married. And they married as a man and a woman. Nowadays, you will hear that people will live together, whether they are man, woman, whether they have married in a church, synagogue, or wherever, but they are considering themselves to be married, or at least they have not married, they are cohabiting as life partners. Civil marriage, as we call it. Traditional values are being lost, is the premise. The bottom line here to understand. Those traditional values, where did they come from? Where did the Christian community derive its traditional values from? That is the Bible. And whilst we do not believe the Bible in its current condition to be the Bible that's what sent down from Allah Rabbul Alamin, likewise the Old Testament, but we do believe that what Allah Rabbul Alamin sent down contained traditional values for society. And that is being lost. If you put that side by side against the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he poses a question to his companions in one of his assemblies, كيف أنتم إذا يكون المعروف منكرا والمنكر معروفا? What will your state be when good will become bad and bad will become good? I just painted that scenario to you. I asked you. I'm not a domicile of Scotland, albeit I may have some information. But you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out what traditional values are being lost. Good becomes bad and bad becomes good, i.e. societal principles are totally changing. And this is what we are witnessing. The companions, blessed be them, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, said, أَسَيَكُونُ ذَلِكَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ? They simply could not fathom and understand that a society will stoop to such a level where good becomes bad and bad becomes good. So will this happen? Or a messenger of Allah? قَالَ بَلْ أَشَدُّ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. The beloved of Allah Rabbul Alameen said, more severe than this will happen. وَمَاذَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ? What will this be, Ya Rasulullah? He said, يَأْمُرُ النَّاسِ بِالْمُنْكَرِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ. That people will command to do bad, thinking it to be good. And people will stop people from doing good because they will think that is bad. So not only will societal principles be upside down, and people will be in their silos, in their private spaces, doing what they are doing, but they will become very aggressive, very public in that belief and try to impose upon society a value system which is totally against the traditional value system. Now I ask you, brothers, because you live in Scotland, I do not. Do you see that or do you not see that? If you don't see that, Assalamu alaikum, I go, you go. Traditional values are being lost. If the elderly generation has seen this in the last 30, 40 years, now let me share with you, anybody who has a smartphone in their pocket will know that the pace at which society is progressing is absolutely astronomical, particularly in the IT industry. Writers who write about the IT industry, you and I will not know because all we have is our smartphone, we have our laptop, we have our Surf Pro, we have our iPad, and we just about mastered what we want to master. There's perhaps nobody sat here who's a master of every function, every platform that they have access to on their phone. But the IT industry, it is said, is progressing at a rate where we will see in the 21st century 20,000 years of progress. So not only are traditional values evaporating and phasing out, and in its place a new set of values are coming that are against traditional values, but a fast-moving society, and those values are changing very quickly, rapidly. It's in the fast wash. That means our next generation, our current generation, our next generations and generations to come will be tested at such a pace they will not be able to keep pace with it. In fact, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam hadith, Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi narrates, there will come a time where even the most intelligent one will be tested and tried and will not be able to fathom and understand and extrapolate and extract what is going on in the world. How many times have you heard the news, sat in front of the TV, listened to the radio in your car, or looked at Sky News in your phone, and you think, what is going on here? I don't know who to believe. I don't know who is right and who is wrong. The boundary between what is right and what is wrong, what is righteous and what is roguish, what is natural and what is unnatural is so blurred, we don't know. It's as though Dajjal literally means where the truth and falsehood become so interlocked with each other and intertwined, it's difficult to determine what is right and what is wrong. We are witnessing this in our own time. And one of the values that is being lost is the institution of marriage, right before our eyes. In that scenario, if we try to understand what does Islam have to offer for society, we as a community, we are commanded in the Quran, and Allah bless our brothers of Jamaat movement who continuously remind us that we are an ummah that has been commanded, instructed to command to the good and prevent from the bad. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس إلى آخر الآية. That's our role in society. But are we fulfilling that role? The biggest gem that we have to give out to society, we're not doing, or perhaps in limited form. The biggest contribution we can make to society, UK society, Scottish society, is to say this is life, how it should be, and one day we are accountable before our Creator. To bring creation closer to Creator is our function. And in that society, one of the values, if we look at our deen, we've got imaniyat, our belief system, our creeds, our dogma. We've equally got a'mal, actions, deeds that we're supposed to be doing, mu'amalat. And if we look at our fiqh books, they will tell us what our mu'amalat should be. Then we've equally got within this our akhlaqiyat, our iqtisad, akhlaqiyat, ethics, morality. A lot of the morals, ethics of society are being drawn from philosophical thinking of the 18th century. Because post-enlightenment, after Christianity decided no longer we will be attached closely to the Bible, we are moving away to a more science-driven society. And now it's a more data-driven society. Post-enlightenment, the human intelligence now is above the Bible. Islam had that type of a century in the 9th century where they had to deal with the Mu'tazilites, the rationalists, a millennium before it happened in Europe. So the value system, but the ulama fought hard and fought very hard to protect the value system. This is how we got it today. And in this scenario where I'm saying we got mu'amalat, our social interactions, we got iqtisadiyat, our economic understandings. And the economic understanding is fairness and justice and social justice, how it's going to be established in society. Our madrasas should be, at Darul Ulooms, they definitely do, teaching financial literacy. They say money makes the world go round, but an understanding of financial literacy is important because it's part and parcel of halal and haram. The morsel of food that is halal is going to impact your worldview, your thinking, your ibadah. Another area of our deen is Islamic spirituality, which we call tasawwuf. Another area is siyasiyat, politics, how to govern society. All of these areas, ukhrawiyat, about life after death, all of these areas are part and parcel of deen. Not one is isolated from the other. And when Muslims were running empires, all of these ran parallel to each other. If you look at the time of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, from 610 to 632, you will find examples. If you look at the time of the rightly guided caliphs from 632 to 661, you will equally find governance. In the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, from 634 to 644, from West Africa to China. That was one of the most prolific eras of Islamic Caliphate. And his era, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, is known as for social justice, paramount example. It wasn't just politics, it wasn't just diniyat, it wasn't just staying in a masjid, but we had everything. If you look at the next era from 661 to 750, which is the time of the Banu Umayyah, where the capital city moved from Madinatul Munawwara to Syria, Damascus, you will equally find examples. If you then move to the next phase, the Banu Umayyah were then expelled and moved out towards what we call today Spain and Portugal, Andalusia, which at that time was ruled by the Romans of Visigoths. Baghdad was the next capital city from 750 to 1258. You equally find rules of governance, rules of different parts of society, all was deen. Muslims were in the seat of power for long periods of time. They knew how to lead the world. They knew how to create growth. They knew how to lead civilization. When Muslims were in Spain between 711 and 1492 of the Banu Umayyah, there was a time where the Oxford, the Cambridge, the Princeton, the other universities like UCLA, Edinburgh, for example, Red Brick University, They were there. All those key institutions were there. Muslims. People from Europe traveled to Andalusia just to learn how to do town planning, how to get water, how to have lights outside. If you visit Spain, Granada, Cordoba, Ishbilia, Seville, Malaga, Madrid, Barcelona, Marbella, you will find the history there of the Muslim community. And one of the things we learned that we knew how to govern and treat people fairly, establish social justice. And in all of those scenarios and beyond this, you have the Ottoman Empire from 1258 to 1924. It's only the last century, 1924 to 2024, where the Muslim lands are carved up. And you see what we see today, 57 odd lands, different countries, and a world in disarray. But in all of those societies and those periods, you had traditional values within society, and one key value was the marital institution and the family. Because the family is the nucleus of society. If one cell of the human being is malignant, i.e. bad, sick, the whole body is at risk of illness. If one family is broken, the whole society is at risk. That's the thinking. This is why Islam paid a lot of attention to protecting the family unit. How did it do this? Well, Islam has, in all these areas of diniyat and understanding of faith, we have some key higher aims, which we call ideology. Your education system in Scotland may well have policies, but those policies are underpinned by a political ideology. That a ruling party may have a certain ideology, it will then want to change the education system based on its political ideology. So at the moment, the national curriculum for the UK started off in 1988. It has a set of values, set of thinking that attempts to reflect what is being taught in British society and what it looks like. The key ideologies of Islam is that there are some social preservatory principle to maintain society, to maintain compact nature, to maintain the family unit. There are certain principles. Principle number one, everybody has a right of Hifzuddin. This area is discussed in Darul Ulooms under Usulul Fiqh, principles of Islamic jurisprudence. Everybody has a right of their religion, freedom of religion. Islam gave this right much, much before the United Nations. Freedom of religion. This is why you will find in Spain, in Baghdad, under the Ottoman Empire, they allowed Christians, Jews to flourish, build their own centers, build their own sacred places of worship. Even gave them some governmental positions. People who translated, like Ishaq bin Hunayn, who was part and parcel of the House of Wisdom and the Baghdad movement to translate texts of Greek philosophy to Arabic language. They were co-opted part of the movement because it believed in giving people the choice to believe or not to believe in Islam. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Thereafter, the fundamental principle for families is Hifzun Nasab. This is where we need to understand the importance of nikah and family unit in Islam. Hifzun Nasab means protection of the family lineage. If I was to ask anybody here, do you know 5 generations beyond you, your great-grandfather's name? So I'm hoping you all know your own name. You all know your father's name. You may know your grandfather's name. But beyond that, it gets a bit tricky. Your great-great-grandfather's name and great-great-grandfather's name. And beyond that, Hifzun Nasab, protecting the family line. This is very important in Islam. This is why it established nikah. It acknowledges that the human being has carnal desires that need to be fulfilled. And for that, we have nikah. And in protection of Hifzul Nasab, the idea, this value system of protecting the family line is nothing new, by the way. You had it in Scotland. Let me ask you a few questions. Have you heard of the name Macintosh? Have you heard of the name McAteer? You're all very quiet, Mulana. They're either hungry or they've never heard of these names. Have you heard of the name? You must have heard of this name, McDonald's. MCMAC. Whether you will have it as MC or MAC. Some names will have it MC. Some will have it MAC. What does that mean? Son of. O share. What does that mean? Son of, grandson of. And there are female versions. This is in Irish society. This is in Scottish society. McAteer, Macintosh, McManamas. This was traditional values protecting whose son are you. In Islam, everybody has the right to know who their father is. Because in part of those traditional value system, you need to know your father, because in Abrahamic religions, you need to know who you can marry and who you cannot marry. And that's through your family line. Quran has حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُكُمْ إِلَىٰ آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. At the end of the 4th juz, these people you cannot marry. This you cannot marry. Beyond this, you can marry. So who you can and cannot marry. And before this, at the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, we have about 29 injunctions in Surah An-Nisa. This is the revolution that Islam brought, the social revolution. That Surah Nisa and complemented by Surah Ma'idah. But 21 rules in Surah Ma'idah and 29 rules of Surah An-Nisa. 50 odd rules that revolutionize society, social justice. And before this, who you can and cannot marry is the second biggest mas'ala that we need to know why nikah is so important. And that is your Allah given right, birthright of inheritance. Nobody can compromise that. Nobody. So if there is a parent that this is my, not so my favorite child, I'm not going to give anything from my estate, that simply cannot happen in Islam. You are sinful. You cannot happen. Two big mas'alas. This is why nasab protection, genealogy protection, your family line protection is very important. And in Islam, the family line is determined by the father. This is why when Imam Sahib is performing nikah, he will first want to determine, is there any impediment, Shari'i, legal, Islamic legal impediment, restriction, prohibition that will not allow Imam Sahib to perform the nikah. And if you think about it in world history, let me give you some examples of world history. One of the greatest crimes of the 18th and 19th centuries, you will have heard of the slave trade. Have you heard of the slave trade? Part of the slave trade, people being taken from Africa, coming to Britain, Caribbean islands, or going to America. If you want to learn more, if you ever visit England, go to Liverpool. They have a museum near the Liverpool docks about this slave trade. And as part of the process, when they were taken, they were totally disconnected from their heritage. People did not know what their religion was, what their fathers' names were. And have you heard of Malcolm X? Do you know what X stands for in Malcolm X? X in mathematical language is unknown entity. So if you may have a mathematical question, x2 equals 9, work out x. x2 equals 16, work out x. X is unknown. So Malcolm X was known as Malcolm X because he did not know his surname. And when he embraced Islam, he took a surname. He took his first name, Malik Shahbaz. And then he accepted Islam of the Nation of Islam. And then he went for Hajj, and then he accepted that I'm accepting the real Islam, because I looked to my right and I saw somebody with blue eyes, blonde hair. And I looked to my left and I saw somebody with Afro-Caribbean appearance. And I saw, this is my brother and this is my brother. They're both my brothers. Islam is multicolored. And he said, I'm taking the Shahada again. This is the proper Islam that I'm learning now. It's not just for black people. Malcolm X is Malcolm X until now. Read his autobiography. And you will find he's known as X because he did not know what his family name was. It was severed. Biggest crime of the 18th and 19th century was the slave trade. It wasn't until Abraham Lincoln came and did something. If you want to learn more about the slave trade in Islam, you have to go in the time of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam and how he dealt with that. And humanized the slaves of Makkah, Madinatul Munawwarah. So the protection of nasab is so important, we see in our society. Malcolm X is a typical example. How many other Malcolm X there will be? If you read the books, those who were around in the 70s, there was a big book called Roots by Alex Haley. He talked about this slave trade and the impact it had on African society. So this is why in nikah is so important, because it's a protection of the family name. This is why in Islam, because the family name, family line is to be protected, zina is not allowed. In fact, not only not allowed, Quran says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't even go near it. And to protect yourself, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Say to the believers, keep your gaze down, keep it respectful. So that we don't go to that, because otherwise it's going to be chaos outside. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said in the hadith, إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مَنْ يُرْضِيكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَخُلُقُهُ مَنْ يُرْضِيكُمْ دِينُهُ وَخُلُقُهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ فَإِنْ لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا سَتَكُونُ فِتْنَةٌ كَبِيرَةٌ وَفَسَادٌ عَرِيضٌ. If you receive a proposal for your child and you are happy with that proposal, boy or girl, with their deen status and their ethics and their moral values and their upstanding and their mobility, marry them. If you do not, then there will soon be a big trial and challenge, and there will soon be mass corruption. The Quran and the Hadith in fact says, تُنْكَهُ الْمَرْأَةُ لِأَرْبَعٍ. A lady is married for one of 4 reasons, because Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam was evaluating what was happening in society in Madinatul Munawwarah and Makkatul Mukarramah. So the woman was married for one of 4 reasons. لِمَالِهَا, for her wealth. وَلِحَسَبِهَا, نَسَبِهَا, for her social standing. وَلِجَمَالِهَا, for her elegance and beauty and radiance. وَلِدِينِهَا, and for her religious standing. فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ. The final quality that he mentioned, that she is married for her deen, her religious standing. So فَاظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ, marry someone, be successful with the one with deen. Because in the long term, your eyes will see the beauty. Your eyes will see the soothness, the calm, the serenity, the peace that you wish in your life. So the characteristic for this, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, the key characteristics for social harmony is deen. That's the traditional value that Islam said that is slowly phasing out over the communities. May Allah protect the Muslim community from that. In fact, our role is to bring that back into society. And in Islam, I'm not a mufti, but ulama are sat here. There cannot be nikah between a man, woman in Islam. You can name it what you like in legal terms. In Islam, it simply cannot happen. And if any imam is trying to find a loophole in doing that, he may need to go back to a darul. But I'm not a mufti. Ask the ulama here. Because this nikah and this fulfillment of internal desires is through the way Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have shown us. Not driven by our own fancy and desire. This is why Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam has taught us, before marriage, the concern is about the child. We do in our du'as, Rabbana hablana min azwajina wa zurriyatina qurrata a'yun. Oh Allah, grant us from our spouses, from our progeny, from our children, qurrata a'yun, the calmness of our eyes, the coolness of our eyes. May we look at them and we are happy. And that, yes, my child is in the right way. But when that more than 50% now, which is the statistics, then you go on the Office of Government Statistics, more than 50% are living under roofs with not their biological parents. The breakdown in the family unit is linked with the breakdown in society. And the breakdown in family unit is the breakdown in nikah. This is why the family unit is so important. And we can go on more with these issues of choosing and selecting a partner, the importance of nikah within society. Because as I said, two important maslas are linked: who you can and cannot marry, and your right of inheritance. The other issue that we need to understand as part of the family unit is maintaining the family ties. Quran is very clear about this. Hadith is very clear about this. Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyasil rahimah. He who believes in Allah and the final day should join his ties. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Man ahabba an yubsata lahu fi rizqi." He who wishes that his provision, his rizq, his sustenance is expanded, then let him join his ties with his relatives. Keep ties. And he who wishes that he be given barakah in his life, his time becomes more blessed, then let him join ties. The Quran, وَالَّذِينَ يَصِلُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلْ وَيَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُ. Those who join ties. And وَالَّذِينَ يَنْقُضُونَ أَهْدَ اللَّهِ. Those who break ties, for them is curse. So our social model within Islam is one of joining, and where you have friction points to address those. And if they go beyond addressing, then Allah Rabbul Alameen has allowed divorce. One of the greatest issues within the Catholic Church is after you have divorce and you want to remarry, you cannot. Until, of course, the Pope changes his mind and issues a decree to counter the argument. And within the Anglican Church or the Protestant churches, the practices are very different. But in Islam, there is no such thing as cohabitation or living together without nikah, and that's the value we need to pass on to our next generation. So every time you receive an invite for a marriage, pray to Allah, Jazakallah, Allah Rabbul Alameen, that we still have our value in our society. That's a ni'mah of Allah. Quran says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. There are 6 verses in one ruku of Surah Rum, Surah number 30. All start وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ. This is the second one of that. Think about this verse, brothers. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُمْ. Allah Rabbul Alameen said, from amongst his sign that he has created, from among yourself, your partners. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you may find comfort in them. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and you find, and he has established love and compassion between you. That is an analysis of marital life in Islam. And then the Quran goes on to say, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ, indeed within this are signs for those who reflect. I ask you, brothers, 2 minutes it takes Maulana Sahib to perform nikah. 2 minutes. Families prepare for the wedding there, the meals, invites, clothes, car, hire, this, that, and the other for months. It takes Maulana 2 minutes for nikah. And within 2 minutes, life has changed. All of a sudden, one party is asking about another party, how are you, how are the relatives? Allah Rabbul Alameen has put love there and compassion there. Just by the blessed khutbah of nikah and the words of nikah. Now the rules have changed, where they did not need to do parda. In parda rules are now relaxed for families. Now you have inheritance rules. Now you have the ability to procreate and have children. All of a sudden, by one khutbah, yes, yes, rules change. Allah Rabbul Alameen, that's the ayatihi, that's the sign to pick up here. Who placed that love there? In Islam, marriage is not a lifestyle choice as we're seeing nowadays. That's what's changed in traditional society. It's gone from the core bit of society to being a lifestyle choice. Islam does not believe nikah is a lifestyle choice. In fact, the khutbah that Maulana will read, he will say, Tazawwaj al-wadud al-walud. Marry a lady who will be compassionate and be a childbearer. فَإِنِّي مُكَاثِرٌ بِكُمُ الْأُمَمَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, because I will be having a cause of pride that my ummah is the greatest on the day of judgment. So procreation is the policy of Islam. The next generation, we need to pass on the teaching that marrying is not a lifestyle choice. It's a core unit of Islamic thinking. And that's what we need to give back to society. Our role is not necessarily to give wealth back or give tax back, but to link what Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam did was link creation with creator and be compassionate upon other members of creation, whether flower, fauna, or human being. That's one of the greatest roles that we can give back to society. This is why Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam's hadith emphasize nikah. And all the social issues that I have already talked about, and I can tell you more about societal issues and how the policies of Islam make so much sense. May Allah Rabbul Alameen grant us the ability to see the truth, acknowledge it, and follow it as it is. Where we have people in Islam coming saying, okay, this is a modernist view, this is a progressive view, this is what needs to happen. This is exactly what happened in Christianity. If you look at the history of Christianity, and I haven't got time to share it with you today, 200 years of history, it will tell you how slowly things change. Certain issues are non-negotiables in Islam. And one of them, if you want to cohabit, if you want to children. Premarital relationship, illicit, illegitimate, illegal relationships, simply not allowed, non-negotiable. To have children outside of wedding, non-negotiable. Inside of wedding is encouraged. Now, whether that happens through natural means or unnatural means. So if somebody cannot biologically have any children, but there are alternative measures, for example, test tube babies, then that's an unnatural mean, but so long as the waters of the husband and wife are together, that would be allowed. And this was an issue that was discussed in Al-Azhar University when Shaykh was there. Nowadays, we have other scenarios of surrogation of 3-parent babies. All of this involve third parties, which is not allowed. Because protection of the family line is core issue here. Otherwise, satakunu fitnatun kabira, a great trial. Wa fasadun arid, big corruption. Who will know? If you look at how, I should be careful in my use of words, water is being protected of a male so that it can go into a bank and it can be germinated within a female afterwards, and so that female later years can become pregnant with it. You don't know whose waters those are. You don't know what's going to happen as who that person is now connecting with. That child may grow up and may be cohabiting with the sister. And you have these scenarios where people have been adopted and they, by different parents, their brothers and sisters did not know, were split. At birth, they were adopted by different sets of parents and they grow up together and they have a natural affinity with one another, attraction to one another as brothers and sisters, and they decide to get married and then they learn that we are brothers and sisters. What Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam informed us, there will be a great trial and mass corruption in society. This is why the family line is very important for it. These are lessons that we must pass on to our next generations. And the issue that Islam has said that this is not two people coming together, these are two clans coming together, two sets of families. Quran says in the 19th juz, خَلَقَ مِنَ الْمَاءِ Allah Rabbul Alameen has created everything from water. فَجَعَلَهُ نَسَبًا وَصِحْرًا. He has established family lines, nasab. وَالسِّحْرًا, marital ties. And this is one of 10 things in that ruku that are favors of Allah upon mankind. So marital tie relationship is a favor of Allah. And when you have, if there is husband passes away or there is divorce, you have rules relating to iddah, as we call the waiting period before this lady can remarry. In Islam, you can remarry. And that waiting period of 3 monthly cycles or 3 months, if you look at the psychology behind this, you will be absolutely amazed because the body needs time. That Islam said, even though the husband and wife have not cohabited or lived together or were intimate in that period for months before they decided to divorce, still you must give opportunity to establish that the womb is empty. And just in case there was any cohabitation, intimacy, and people do not know, the human body needs this amount of time to become absolutely clear. And 4 months and 10 days, 40 days extra, just in case the husband has passed away, then there are 40 days extra because she has lost one of favors of Allah upon her. And the body, when the human being is in grief, the mind is overwhelmed with grief and sadness, and that is etched on the face, the body will slow down. The biological functions of it, the clearing the womb will slow down. If you look at the beauty of Islam, mahasin Islam, compare it with what we know about science today and what we will find out in later years. As we move into artificial intelligence territory and we have AI allowing us to identify more patterns, you will see the beauty of Islam as a system for human beings to live by. It's up to, of course, individuals to adopt it or not adopt it, follow it or not follow it, adhere to it or not adhere to it. So as a system of Islam, the family unit is the core of society. If that family unit is broken up, look at the Western hemisphere around you. The breakdown of the family unit, what do you see? This is one of the biggest contributions that the Muslim community to give back to Europe, Christian Europe, which had family values, traditional values, which were from the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Time is going on, and I don't wish to keep you beyond this. May Allah Rabbul Alameen grant us the ability to see the truth as it is and follow it. Allah Rabbul Alameen grant us the ability to see falsehood, lies, deceit, roguishness as they are, and grant us the ability to stay away from it. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Sorry? Do brothers have any questions related to the topic? Hazrat Maulana has put me on the spot, so I'm happy to be put on the spot. If I don't know, of course, I will refer to him. Chalo. Maulana, they are quiet. Dua kar le? Somebody say something. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala nabiyil kareem. صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأحوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها من ذكر الدرجات وتبلغنا بها الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة بعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم ربنا لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا مبقي لما منعت ولا ينفع ذا الجد منك الجد. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والعجز والكسل والجبن والبخل ومن غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم ربنا آمنا فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين ونطمع أن يدخلنا ربنا مع القوم الصالحين. إلهنا ألحقنا بالصالحين، إلهنا ألحقنا بالصالحين، إلهنا ألحقنا بالصالحين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم احفظ مقدسات المسلمين، اللهم احفظ الحرمين الشريفين، اللهم احفظ بيت المقدس، اللهم احفظ مسجد الأقصى، اللهم ارحم أهل فلسطين وأهل غزة وأهل رفح يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الكفر والشرك والرياء والسمعة والغزف والبهتان يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى، اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى، اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى. اللهم إنا نسألك خير ما سألك نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منك نبيك وحبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. أنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.